Have you ever had that chilling feeling that something's not right? That's exactly what hit me at 2 a.m. on a dark, empty highway in Florida. What happened next made me realize sometimes our worst fears don't stay behind. They follow you home. It was nearly 2 a.m. when I left the small town. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale light over the lonely highway stretching out before me. My headlights barely cut through the thick, dark air. Florida roads, this late at night, are deserted. I didn't mind. The quiet was soothing in a way. Just me, my car, and the road stretching on forever. But something about the quiet made me uneasy. My mind wandered, thinking about the long day I'd had. The drive from my friend's house had been long, but it was nothing new. I often found myself driving at odd hours. It was the only way I could clear my head. I checked the clock on the dashboard. 2:13 a.m. Another 30 minutes and I'd be home. Safe. I could relax. But there was something strange in the air tonight. A sense of heaviness. Or maybe it was just the fatigue setting in. I rubbed my eyes and glanced at the rearview mirror. It was as empty as the rest of the road. Just blackness stretching behind me, and the occasional flicker of my car's taillights. I was used to being alone at this hour. Still, I felt a knot in my stomach. Then I saw it. A pair of headlights far behind me. At first, I thought it was just another car passing through, but as I watched, the headlights grew closer, much faster than I expected. I frowned. It was odd for anyone to be driving this late, especially in this area. There weren't any towns nearby, just endless forest and road. If you've ever felt that spine-chilling sensation of being watched, hit subscribe. Trust me, what happens next will make you think twice about every late-night drive. Like this video if you're brave enough to keep watching, because you'll want to be ready if this ever happens to you. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe the driver was in a hurry to get somewhere. But the car didn't pass me. It stayed right behind me, following my every move. I shifted uneasily in my seat, feeling the knot in my stomach tighten. The headlights were glaring into my rearview mirror now, blinding me with their intensity. I squinted and glanced to my side, checking for any other cars. There was nothing, just the dark road. I tried to tell myself it was fine. It was probably nothing, just another driver heading to wherever they were going. But the closer the car got, the more my nerves were on edge. My heart was starting to beat a little faster, my palms starting to sweat. I glanced at the clock again. 2:18 a.m. It was getting later and I was getting closer to home. Just a little further, I told myself. But the car behind me kept getting closer. It was tailgating me now, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't right. The headlights were still glaring, and the car stayed glued to my bumper. My heart pounded harder in my chest. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Maybe they were just driving aggressively, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it wasn't normal. I decided to change lanes, hoping that the car would pass me. But it didn't. It stayed right behind me, matching my speed. I glanced in the mirror again, my stomach tightening. The headlights were so close now, I could see the shape of the car, but not enough to make out any details. It was a dark vehicle, its silhouette blending into the night. I kept my speed steady, trying to stay calm. I couldn't let my imagination get the best of me. But every time I glanced back, the car was still there, not passing me, not going anywhere. Then the high beams flashed. My breath caught in my throat as the sudden light blinded me, making it hard to see the road ahead. The car behind me had switched on its high beams. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. And it was meant to make me uncomfortable. I could feel the panic rising, my heart racing in my chest. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. I glanced at the clock. 2:21 a.m. The road ahead was dark, the trees lining it like silent sentinels. I was getting closer to my destination, but I didn't feel any safer. If anything, I felt more exposed. The car behind me didn't let up, It stayed there, following me, staying too close. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I changed lanes again, hoping that the car would pass, but it stayed with me, right on my tail. I couldn't stand it any longer. I sped up, pushing the gas pedal harder, hoping that the car behind me would finally pass. But it didn't. It stayed right there, matching my speed. The high beams flashed again, blinding me. My hands were shaking now, my mind racing. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid to stop, afraid to pull over. The car behind me sped up too, closing the distance between us even more. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I glanced at the rearview mirror, but all I could see was the blinding headlights. I couldn't see the driver. I couldn't even make out the shape of the car, but I knew they were still there, right behind me. And then, in the distance, I saw a faint light, a gas station. I didn't think twice. I pulled off the road and into the lot, hoping that maybe, just maybe, there would be people inside. I needed to get out of the car. I needed to feel safe. But as I turned into the gas station, I saw the car in front of me. It swerved into the lot, blocking my path. My heart skipped a beat as the car stopped directly in front of mine, the headlights shining directly into my windshield. I froze. The man got out of the car. He was tall, wearing a dark hoodie, his face obscured in the shadows. My breath hitched in my throat, my body going stiff with fear. He was walking toward me, his footsteps slow and deliberate. My heart was racing, thudding in my ears. I had to get out of there. I had to leave. I fumbled for the door lock, my fingers shaking as I pressed the button. The man kept walking, coming closer with every step. I could see the outline of his face now, but it was mostly hidden under the hood. He was almost at my window now. I panicked. My hands scrambled for the gear shift, my mind screaming for me to do something, anything. Without thinking, I slammed the car into reverse, my foot slamming on the gas. The tires screeched, and I heard a loud crunch as my car collided with his. I didn't look back. I didn't care if I had hit him or not. I floored the gas and sped out of the gas station, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest diner about 20 miles away. My hands were still shaking, my breath coming in short gasps. I stumbled inside the diner, my legs feeling weak. The place was almost empty, except for a few late-night truckers drinking coffee at the counter. I rushed to the payphone and called the police. My voice was shaky as I told them what happened. They told me to stay where I was and that they'd send someone to patrol the area. But even as I hung up, I knew deep down that it wasn't over. That man was still out there. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching me, waiting for the right time to come back. The police arrived about an hour later, taking my statement and reassuring me that they'd patrol the area. But when they left, I felt a gnawing emptiness in my chest. I wasn't sure if I'd ever feel safe again. That man knew where I was. He knew I was alone. After the police left, I sat in my car for a few minutes, trying to calm my nerves. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, my heart racing. But there was nothing, just the dark road and the empty night. I drove home in a daze, barely able to focus on the road. Every car I passed felt like it was following me. Every shadow seemed to conceal someone waiting for me. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I didn't get out of the car right away. I sat there, staring at the darkness, listening to the sound of my own breathing. I thought I was safe. But even now, as I sit here writing this, I'm not so sure. I can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, waiting, watching, waiting for me to let my guard down, because I know he'll be back. I just don't know when.